Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very exciting day today, the 1st of July 2022. That means the first day of the new financial year on this side of the world. Well, that's right, it is the 1st of July, and of course all books would be closed by last night or close of business yesterday, and a new financial year begins from today. So those of you who are trying to get all these reports done and all your accounting softwares rolled over, wishing you all the best. I know this is a very, very busy time for auditors, accountants, accounts admin people, doing the stock take. So stock is at 30th of June. But right now, 1st of July, let's move on. The first news for today is John Barilaro withdraws from that job that he was supposed to take up in New York, well, after the selection process was questioned.
The former New South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro has pulled out of his new role as the state's Trade Commissioner to the Americas, saying his appointment is no longer tenable. For the latest, let's bring in reporter Kathleen Calderwood in Sydney. Kathleen, good morning. This follows a period of intense media and political scrutiny, doesn't it?
That's right, Michael. It's been a fortnight now since John Barilaro, the former Deputy Premier of New South Wales, was originally announced as the state's new Trade Commissioner to the Americas, to be based in New York, and the intense pressure and scrutiny has continued ever since. We saw one of his former colleagues yesterday call for him to do the honourable thing and stand down, and we did late yesterday have something of a pressure release, a release valve, in that John Barilaro announced he would be withdrawing from this position. He cited that intense media attention as the reason as to why it was no longer tenable for him to take up this role. He said that he felt he would continue to be a distraction if he were to take up the position, and that would stop the role achieving what it was designed to do. He went on to say, "I stress that I have always maintained that I followed the process and look forward to the results of the review."
But Kathleen says the opposition says there is still so many unanswered questions in its view.
Look, there really are, and certainly John Barilaro's withdrawal is no indication that the two inquiries that are currently going on into this appointment will be suspended. There is an internal review that's been ordered by the Premier, which he says he'll make public once it's complete. But there's also a parliamentary inquiry ongoing, and that will continue. We have learned over the past couple of weeks that there had actually been a previous candidate identified last year while John Barilaro was still in the Parliament, and she had been given a verbal offer for this role. But we learnt in the parliamentary inquiry earlier this week that was rescinded after a decision of government, which meant that the roles were going to be transferred to ministerial appointments. So there are still lots of questions to be answered about why the government decided to do that, exactly who in the government was pushing for those roles to become ministerial appointments. But we've also learnt this week that both the Premier and the current Trade Minister, Stuart Ayres, had been told in either social settings or in passing by Mr Barilaro that he was planning to apply for this job. So there's also some questions around why none of them sort of took a moment and had a bit of a sense check to think what the ramifications might be if Mr Barilaro were to be successful in this role, and perhaps think to go back to him and discourage him from applying.
There are so many questions that still need to be answered, and of course the selection process is what it is, but then if you change the process halfway, you need to explain why exactly, so that there is no doubt in anyone's mind at all. But if you do it without all those things, this is what really happens. Well, right now the next report is looking at the Australian supernation and see what's actually happening there. People are missing out.
Ruby Sidorides is finally getting paid superannuation. The 19-year-old's previous employer didn't pay anything into a retirement savings.
I was the first girl in my year level to get an apprenticeship, and when he didn't give me pay slips, I just didn't even realise that I was supposed to have them.
From the 1st of July, about 300,000 people earning less than $450 a month will now be eligible for super. But Australians under the age of 18 must still work more than 30 hours a week to get it. And compulsory contributions will rise from 10 to 10.5% before climbing to 12% in 2025. Assistant Treasurer Stephen Jones is urging businesses to pay the increase on top of wages.
Our message to employers is work with your workforce, do the right thing by them.
The minister's also flagged offering super on paid parental leave, and he wants to review the system that determines whether Australians are in an underperforming fund.
There is a role for government to ensure that there is continually pressure on the funds, that they're structured in the right way to get great returns for members over the long term.
Australians have lost thousands of dollars off their superannuation savings over the past financial year. And in the coming months, with interest rates rising and share markets so volatile, retirement balances could take an even bigger hit.
We should be expecting quite a rough patch for the next 6 to 12 months.
While it's going to be a rough time for those with super balances, many Australians under the age of 18 are missing out completely.
People need to be able to start their superannuation savings at that age, particularly with increased casualisation and part-time work.
Ruby agrees and worries for her teenage friends.
No 15-year-old is going to want to do, oh yeah, I want to do 30 plus hours. Like, they have time. They need time for social and to see family and to do schoolwork.
She's urging those with super balances to keep a close eye on them.
I don't think many of my younger friends know about super and how to access it, how to look at it. I definitely feel like they will be affected by it, whether it's tomorrow or a year or 2 years from now. They will eventually realise.
The hope is that they realise today to ensure a comfortable retirement in the future.
And of course, the overall, when you look at the whole scheme of things, there's so many things that are still unanswered in that. Well, I mean, the thing is on the first go, that the super should have been a complete separate statutory body rather than all individual different funds. So government controlled like, it's like a provident fund in some other countries. A lot of British colonies had that system, including India and Fiji and other places. So that way, people didn't have to, have that horrendous paperwork, okay, going with this one or that one or mine's with this when you change work. First, number one, it was supposed to be like that, there's one government statutory body which will look after the super and everyone on the same rate. And number two, that it should have been for, rather than, if you only work 40 hours a week or you work this much, it should have been just as a very, very simple method that everyone, upon your earning, this is your percentage. Simple as that. That's why it didn't have to calculate, you didn't have to work out this, who's going to get it, who's not going to get it, regardless of whether you earned $450 or less. Whatever you earn, that percentage should have been applied across the board. And that way it would have been very simple. There would be no questions. One body to look after the whole lot rather than too many different funds, like in a provident fund, a national provident fund where everyone, each and every employee became a member and each and every employee got paid the same amount. So, same percentage of the earning and simple, would have been a lot simpler. But anyway, it is what it is. And the system, if you allow it to be rotted, it will rot. Well, right now, the next part that we're going to look at is, again, not a very good look. I see job seekers are being kept in the dark.
There are big changes coming for how Emma Williamson accesses Centrelink support. The first official notice came only this week on her phone.
A new Workforce Australia app will replace the JobActive Job Seeker app.
She lives with chronic pain from endometriosis and is currently exempted from some mutual obligations to maintain her job seeker payment. She knows almost nothing about the new points-based system coming in the days ahead.
I asked the Centrelink advisor if they could give me any more information about the upcoming changes on Friday, and they could not give me any answers.
More than 750,000 people use Job Active to look for jobs and meet mutual obligations. Starting tomorrow, Job Active will disappear, replaced by a new system called Workforce Australia. To get paid job seeker, most participants will need to earn 100 points a month. Applying for a job gets you 5 points. Work for the dole is worth 20 points a week. Points are also awarded for online courses and workshops. Employment Minister Tony Burke says the new system gives job seekers more flexibility.
Now you'll get credit for the things that get you job ready. It's a huge change, but it's a change that in fact is benefiting the person who's involved in it.
About 300,000 Australians on Job Seeker meet their mutual obligations through another system, Disability Employment Services, or DES. They won't be changing to Workforce Australia, but because Job Active will no longer exist, the DES web portal and app will be rebranded Workforce Australia. Confused? So are many of the people impacted by this change.
Well, looking at all the points that you will be getting for actively seeking employment, I don't believe it's a bad system. It is a change, and of course, whenever there is a change that's implemented, there's always opposition to change, as they reckon you try and change something in your household, your workplace, and whatever. Change is always looked upon as why do we have to do this? But when you look at the reasoning behind that, and I think, to me personally, that makes a lot of sense, and people will get used to it. Look at all the software and everything. Every day there's something changes. Facebook has just recently put some changes in. Now you switch between profiles rather than you and your page and other things. So every day there's constant changes. And if you look at any software, if you look at Microsoft Office, the way they have put things in, there's so much artificial intelligence in there. Now you start putting something in, and then all of a sudden it picks up things on its own, because that's what it thinks you want to say or do. People like it, and some people like me just completely hate it. But looking at this kind of changes, I reckon those are for the better. Well, that's my personal opinion. There's a disclaimer there. Right now, let's go to Western Australia, where the single-use plastic gets the kick.
At this party supply store in Perth South, many of the thousands of products for sale might end up in landfill.
As a retailer, we're very dependent on, what our suppliers are telling us is allowed and what's not allowed, because we don't know the exact makeup of each product.
Ahead of the state's new plastic ban coming into force, the store has already begun transitioning to some natural and biodegradable products. But AJ Malhotra says there's still some uncertainty about what he can sell.
We're still getting emails, as late as last week about what is within the ban and what's not on the ban. There's just a lot of grey areas.
Among the items to be banned, disposable plastic plates, bowls and containers without a lid, polystyrene takeaway food containers, plastic drinking straws and cutlery, and thick plastic shopping bags. There's also a ban on releasing helium balloons into the air. They're products this Perth lunch bar relies on.
With our small business, because we're takeaway, plastic bags, plastic cutlery and plastic containers, they actually help us in many ways. We depend on them. Do you want a fork?
The National Retail Association has spent months helping businesses prepare, but admits it'll be difficult for some.
Thank you.
This is a big change for them, and they need that time and they need that information in order to be able to understand what their obligations and responsibilities are, and also why those decisions have been made.
Other plastic items are set to be banned next year, with fresh produce packaging also being considered. But this tomato wholesaler is already making changes, using environmentally friendly punnets made from recycled cardboard.
Us as people, we can do our little bit too, and I thought this is my little bit of doing something for the environment and the community as a whole, and for the future generations of my children and everybody else's children.
A big step he's hoping others will follow. Tabarak Al-Jarood, ABC News.
Right, so where does all this timber or the wooden spoons and knives and forks come from? What are they made from? Okay, cardboard as well, or paper-bagged products, where are they made from? What is the main source ingredient? How is it sourced? How is it, of course it is biodegradable, that is no doubt about that. But didn't we go away from all of those in the very beginning? The brown paper bags, in the olden days, the fish and chips wrapped in a newsprint. And all of those had to go out the window, and the new revolution came plastic. This was it, injection molding and the other things, and everyone talked about plastic. Well, right now plastic is a bad thing. So single-use plastic has been banned. Now, you know that even at big festivals now, if you're organizing a festival and if you're planning to give water or something like that, even the bottled plastic ones are also not allowed. And people call it plastic bottle. How can a plastic be a bottle? I don't know. But that's the common term that's been used, that the plastic bottles will not be allowed. So there you go. This is a changing times. It will come at a cost. Of course, the cardboard or the paper-bagged containers and everything has to be made from something. The raw material and the source ingredient does come from somewhere. Well, it is all about food, and this is food for thought as well. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and much more on India and the Indian diaspora. Indian Vice Presidential election to be held on August 6, 2022. The polls to elect the 16th Vice President of India will be held on 6th August, with the last date of nominations set for July 19th, the Election Commission of India announced on June 29th. The polls are slated to be held 4 days before Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu demits office on August 10. The Vice President is elected by the members of the Electoral College, consisting of members of both houses of the Parliament, in accordance with the system of the proportional representation by means of the single transferable vote. The Electoral College comprises a total of 788 members, 233 elected members of Rajya Sabha, 12 nominated members of the Rajya Sabha and 543 elected members of the Lok Sabha. For making the vote, Commission will supply particular pens. The pens will be given to the electors in the polling station by the designated official when the ballot paper is handed over. Electors have to mark the ballot only with this particular pen and not with any other pen. Voting by using any other pen shall lead to invalidation of the vote at the time of counting, the Commission said in a statement. The Secretary General of Lok Sabha has been appointed as the returning officer for the election. The Election Commission statement added that the nomination paper of a candidate has to be subscribed by at least 20 electors as proposers and by at least another 20 electors as seconders. Since the voting will be by secret ballot, the Commission has asked the electors to maintain the secrecy of the vote. India has seen a massive jump in COVID-19 cases, records 18,000 new infections and active cases cross 100,000 mark. India recorded 18,819 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours and 39 deaths, data from the Union Health Ministry showed. As many as 13,827 patients recovered from the infection. The total active COVID cases crossed the 100,000 mark at 1,04,555. The total number of deaths in the country is now at 5,25,116. The country has witnessed a jump of more than 4,000 cases in just 24 hours. On June 29th, India logged 14,506 new COVID-19 cases, taking the total tally of active cases to 99,602, according to the Union Health Ministry data. India recorded 30 deaths due to coronavirus, and with it, the death toll has climbed to 5,25,077. The data updated at 8 a.m. stated. Active cases comprise 0.23% of the total infections, while the national COVID-19 recovery rate was recorded at 98.56%, the Health Ministry said. An increase of 2,902 cases have been recorded in the active COVID-19 caseload in a span of 24 hours. The daily positivity rate was recorded at 3.35%, almost equal to the weekly positivity rate, which was recorded at 3.36% according to the Health Ministry. India has successfully tested high-speed expendable aerial target Abhyas. India on June 29 successfully flight tested the indigenously developed high-speed expendable aerial target Abhyas from the integrated test range in Chandipur off the Odisha coast. The performance of the aircraft at low altitude, including sustained level and high maneuverability, was demonstrated during the test flight, it said. The target aircraft was flown from a ground-based controller in a pre-designed low-altitude flight path, which was monitored by various tracking sensors deployed by ITR, including radar and an electro-optical targeting system, it added. Abhyas is designed and developed by Aeronautical Development Establishment of Defence Research and Development Organisation. Assam flood situation has worsened due to incessant rain. 24.9 lakh people have been affected. The flood situation in Assam state worsened on June 29th following incessant rain, with 5 more people losing their lives in the deluge and number of affected people rising to 24.92 lakh, while Silchar town in Kachar district continued to remain inundated for the last 10 days. The Met Department has issued a red alert in the districts of Kokrajhar, Chirang, Baksa and an orange alert in Dhubri, Barpeta, Bangaigaon, Udalguri, Biswanath, Lakhimpur, Dhemaji and Dibrugarh. The Weather Office has also issued an orange alert in South Salmara, Kokrajhar, Chirang and Baksa district till June 30th. 5 fresh fatalities have taken the total number of deaths due to the floods and landslides in Assam this year to 139. While 3 more people have been reported missing, a bulletin issued by the Assam State Disaster Management Authority said. Brahmaputra, Peki, Kopeli, Barak, Kushiara rivers were flowing above the danger level in some places, although most of the remaining rivers were also showing a receding trend. Most localities of Silchar were still waterlogged and the situation remained critical, with residents facing a shortage of food, drinking water and medicines. Indian Railways will run 205 special trains to connect Puri in Odisha for the Jagannath Rath Yatra 2022. The Indian Railways will be running 205 special trains for the Rath Yatra in Odisha's Puri on July 1st. The Odisha government expects 10 lakh pilgrims to gather at the temple town this year. In 2020 and 2021, devotees were not allowed to participate in the festival of Lord Jagannath due to the pandemic, and only servitors took part in the rituals. The special trains will run from Shalimar near Kolkata, Jagadalpur in Chhattisgarh and Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh, besides different parts of Odisha connecting Puri. Arrangements have been made for facilitating easy movement of passengers on the days of Rath Yatra, Bahuda Jatra, Sandhya Darshan and Sunabhisha, he said. Adequate police personnel is being mobilized in the town so that the devotees can have a safe darshan of the deities. From Kolkata to Chennai, Pride parades bring colours of love to the Indian cities. Every year, Pride Month is celebrated worldwide to honour the LGBTQIA communities. Several brands change their logos to rainbow colours and parades, marches and walks are held to celebrate. Even though this phenomena has been primarily seen in the West, it is also true that India is catching up, with Pride parades happening across the country. Such parades are a combination of political activism and a celebration of everything the LGBTQIA community has accomplished over the years. The Kolkata Rainbow Pride Walk is regarded as the oldest Pride Walk in India and South Asia. It was organized on 2nd July 1999. The walk was called the Friendship Walk. Although Pride parades take place throughout the year in India, Pride Month is when the majority of them occur. Let's take a look at how various Indian states have taken part in Pride parades in support of LGBTQIA communities. Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray has quit ahead of the trust vote in the State Assembly. There is a likelihood that former Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis may return to power. Uddhav Thackeray resigned as Maharashtra Chief Minister on June 29th. Uddhav Thackeray's announcement followed soon after the Supreme Court rejected Maharashtra government's plea seeking a stay on floor test in Maharashtra Assembly. Uddhav Thackeray also resigned from the Maharashtra Legislative Council. Announcing his decision via video address, Uddhav Thackeray expressed his gratitude to Congress President Sonia Gandhi and NCP Chief Sharad Pawar for their support. Uddhav Thackeray expressed his disappointment with Shinde faction, saying that he gave the rebel MLAs all they wanted. Accompanied by sons Aditya and Tejas, he drove to Raj Bhavan and handed over his resignation letter as Chief Minister to Maharashtra Governor Bhagat Singh Koshyari around midnight. The governor accepted his resignation. Shortly after Thackeray stepped down, Maharashtra BJP chief Chandrakant Patil said party colleague Devendra Fadnavis and rebel Shiv Sena leader Eknath Shinde will take a call on the next course of action. The state BJP unit has asked all its MLAs to gather in Mumbai. Patil has also asked the rebel Shiv Sena MLAs not to come to Mumbai today and arrive only on the day of oath taking. Ji Huzur song from Ranbir Kapoor's Shamshera has been released. Bollywood director Karan Malhotra has asked viewers whether they are ready to dance as he announced the release of the film Shamshera's brand new song Ji Huzur, starring actor Ranbir Kapoor.
ठोको सलाम ठोको अरे सुबह शाम ठोको देखो आया कलंदर रोको ना खुद को रोको.
The 2-minute 16-second video shows Ranbir as character Balli sporting a rugged look.
हम चोरों से चोरी है करते जरूर और रफ्ता 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 भरे अपना फितूर.
He seemed to be having a blast with the kids dancing to the tunes of Ji Huzur amid sandy terrains and mud houses. Ranbir's rustic avatar, wearing a Pathan suit with unkempt hair, suited him quite well. He was surrounded by kids who seemed to love Balli. Ranbir's energetic dance moves and his quirky expressions were an added bonus. In breaking news today, Eknath Shinde to be the Maharashtra Chief Minister, oath ceremony to be held at 7:30 p.m. on 30th June. BJP leader Devendra Fadnavis has announced in a joint press conference with Shinde. That's all in today's bulletin.
Thank you, Ankit Anubhuti, for that very comprehensive report there. And of course, good to see that Bollywood is bouncing back with new scenes coming in. Well, of course, right now, ladies and gentlemen, before we finish off today, let's go and take a look at functions and events that are happening. And it's Friday and it is raining, 40 degrees, and the outlook for the rest of the weekend is going to be patchy rain as well. All right, now let's take a look at functions and events. Ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you in this segment. What we're going to do is look at Aapka Sehat, which will be on tomorrow, which is the Indian Medical Association's monthly presentation. So we will catch you up tomorrow at 10 o'clock with that. At 9 o'clock we'll have the normal, our daily news and daily India report. Well, it's been wonderful having your company. So until tomorrow, it's goodbye from us.